Home is where connections are made, memories are formed, and ideas are born. And no one knows home better than NFM. Thanks for tuning in to I Am Home, the podcast that goes deeper than trends and dives into what it means to make your house a home.
Welcome to another episode of I Am Home. Tyler Weiskup here from NFM Studios, and I'm joined today by the Fung to our podcasting shui, Becca Sudbeck.
Hey, Tyler.
Hi, Becca. And of course, the focal point of your design, hearts and mind, it's Hilary. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey.
Hi, Hilary. For the month of June, we're unraveling truths and misconceptions around the home. So today, we're diving into the concept of dopamine decorating. What is it? How does it work? And how can you incorporate it into your home? So stick around and we're going to explore this topic and more. But before we get to that, let me tell you why we're even doing this podcast. And that's because NFM is more than just your everything home store. We're in the business of improving lifestyles because your home life should be your best life. And so I'm going to punt it over to you, Hilary, to take it from here because you are our dopamine decorating, myth busting expert.
Yes, thank you. So like we've talked about in all our episodes this month, we're debunking some myths around the home. And I felt like this was the perfect opportunity to debunk some interior design or decorating myths and with a very buzzworthy kind of term right now, dopamine decorating.
Because this one, I know that we were talking about it was like just a few weeks ago, just being so hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
yes.
everyone was really excited as a topic for us to cover on the podcast.
Yes. Yeah. And so I feel like anytime we talk about home interior design, we're talking about infusing color and personality and making it fun, but can also be very overwhelming. So I want us to dig a little bit deeper today. So I want to ask the two of you, when you think about dopamine decorating, what comes to mind?
Becca, why don't you go because I need a second.
I would say like a rush of some sort.
Yes.
That's what I think
Okay.
of.
Okay.
That's good. Because I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't get enough of this design. And I'm just like rubbing on the furniture. Is that...
That's a weird visual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a cat. So have you heard about dopamine dressing when it comes to apparel? Have you heard that either?
No.
Okay. So dopamine decorating is kind of like an offshoot of dopamine dressing. So essentially you think about dopamine, it's that like feel good feeling that maybe makes you want to rub on your furniture.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But it's all about designing your space in a way that feels happy and improves your mood and essentially is like stimulating your brain with those like happy feel good feelings, which is dopamine. So it's usually vibrant and uplifting colors, lots of personalization, elements from nature, comfort and functionality, playful decor. So those are all like large roles. And I know for some that may sound chaotic, a little crazy, but there is some very simple approaches to it. And to that point about personalization, it's all about personalization because what makes you feel happy and that feel good feeling is going to be very different, even amongst the three of us. So I'm going to take you through some interior design misconceptions, some myths. And then I want to get your take on it if you agree. And then I'll kind of talk you through how dopamine decorating can maybe get you out of that thinking.
I love this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm excited. Surrounding yourself with happy things, I think, is a place all of us want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heck yeah. Okay. So good interior design or interior decorating uses a strict or neutral color palette. How do you feel about that?
I mean, personally, I feel like that it doesn't jive with with the way that we tried to put our house together. Certainly wouldn't say that we're finished by any means, but we love color. We want to be able to like walk into our space and get different feelings in each of our room and want to tell a different story in each space. And I think the idea of having our favorite, going back to the idea of surrounding ourselves with favorite things, like our favorite colors and our favorite patterns and like different textures. I don't like being told I have to stay in a box.
Yes. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't like the word strict. Like, I feel like, I mean, I think neutrals definitely have a place, but I also feel like it doesn't have to be strictly neutrals.
Right.
Like, I think that's pretty boring.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
You're spot on. So a lot of the myths are like neutral colors are the safest. They're the most timeless. You're not going to get tired of them. You won't feel like you need to repaint. And that like a strict color palette ensures that you have like a cohesive and sophisticated look. So those could be true, but they are not the rule. So neutral colors can certainly create like a calm and very versatile backdrop if you like to change things up, but they don't necessarily evoke any strong emotional reactions like you talked about.
It's neutral.
Yes.
For a reason.
Yes. So dopamine decorating suggests that we use color to kind of create those happy feelings. And I think we've talked about this in some of our like Pantone Color of the Year conversations, the emotional response that can happen from colors. So yellows, blues, greens can evoke joy, creativity, energy, and ultimately are enhancing your emotional well-being. And we know that like blues can be very calming. So depending on your space, you can explore blues. Greens can be refreshing, and yellows can be kind of cheery and uplifting too. So again, all about those like feelings you get from spaces, like colors can certainly play a role in that. Okay, so misconception number 2, you can't have a functional and aesthetically pleasing home. Myths are often that functionality detracts from the visual appeal of space. Functional design lacks personalization, and prioritizing aesthetics means you have to sacrifice practicality. How do you feel about that?
I definitely don't agree with this one. I mean, I think that's so far from the truth. And I mean, maybe like a lot of years ago that was harder to do, but I mean, I feel like this day and age, like there's just so many options and so many ways to make things personal and functional all at the same time. I mean, I feel like you don't have to sacrifice one for the other at this point. Which is a great world to live in.
Yeah. I mean, I think about like my family, like on both my sides, like growing up, I feel like they didn't pay as much attention, I think, to like the cohesiveness of design.
Sure.
And they were just all about, well, we want it to be soft when we sit down, and we want like this. But like when you look at all the different options that are out there, like Becca, you were saying today, like you can have the best of both of those worlds. And I think more and more people are realizing that that's the case, instead of like, I just want a couch to be soft.
It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can have both.
Yes. Yeah, certainly. So you're spot on. And dopamine decorating aims to create spaces that are both beautiful and livable. Again, going back to that personalization, think about your rooms that are like multifunction. You know, you may be cooking and dining in the same space. You may be relaxing and working in the same space. And so you don't have to totally throw functionality out of the window. They can really complement each other. Functionality and aesthetics can complement each other. And so like think about like work from home. How many people work from home, and those spaces that have to be like functional, but also you spend how many hours a day in there, and like storage solutions alone. You're talking about options that are out there, like creative, fun, functional. There's just like an overwhelming amount. And so you may have to do a little bit of digging, but it's out there.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you're creative, like it doesn't even have to cost you that much money to be able to like have that functionality and to look cool and feel personal to you and like be an expression of all the things that you love.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on. Okay. So final misconception for you, that following trends are a must and following trends can be expensive. How do the two of you feel about that?
I mean, a must. I don't feel like it's a must. I feel like if it's on a trend you like I don't think you have to do that at all. And I think that if you are into a trend or want to try something, I mean, I think there's a pretty wide range of ways in which you can incorporate the trend from like, you know, a pretty reasonable price to obviously if you want to go all in, pretty expensive. But I think there's just so many options in so many different price ranges that you can probably make it happen.
Yes.
You know, if you look, I mean, it might take some looking and digging to find what you want to find in the price point that works for you, but I think you can.
I get some of the justification for this myth though, in the idea that like, especially with everything that's on social media today, with the algorithms are all feeding us what's popular, like us trying to like stay on top of things, and like how much we've like made ourselves crazy to make sure that we're constantly aware of everything that's happening, and we figure out a way to incorporate that into our lives and then take a picture of it so that we can show all of our friends about how amazing everything looks. Like I get the sentiment. But I agree with you. You don't have to do that, but it takes a lot of work and energy, I think, probably to step back,
to be on
from
that side of the perspective. Yeah.
And obviously if you are trying to stay up on that, it will be expensive, especially when it comes to home interiors.
Yeah. So some of the myths out there that you've probably heard that in order to have a stylish home, you have to keep up with trends. And to stay current, you need to constantly be updating your home with new trends. And adhering to new trends requires frequent overhauls of your home. And you touched on it, Tyler, but trend cycles are very, very rapid now. A lot of that due to social media. In the last 2 years alone, TikTok has told us about Barbiecore. Talk to us about quiet luxury, the clean girl aesthetic, mermaid core. Yes. And that's just like a few that have been thrown our way in the last, I don't even think it's been 2 years total.
I always think it's really interesting because I feel like there are like homes that I go into and I'm like, this maybe isn't the trend, but this speaks to this person. And I feel like those homes feel so timeless to me because I'm like, wow, like this home represents you, like this, I can see you living here and enjoying this place. Like, I mean, I feel like I think of my grandma's house, like it was built in the 90s. It was decorated in the 90s, but even like, you know, when she passed away, it was so her and so timeless that like, it wasn't out of style. It was just her style.
Yeah. She wasn't forcing anything.
And so I feel like I think there's, I think
it's being able to achieve that, like, it takes some time and energy and like exploration. And you've got to be able to try some things, and feel confident to know that like if you do it wrong, you can, like, there's some things that we've talked about on the podcast many times that you want to invest in that you know are going to be like, that may be a little expensive for me just to try, but then there's other things that you can do to explore that, to figure out your style. Because I agree, those homes I always love when you can feel the person.
Like, it might not even be my style, but I still love it because it's it's so them.
I think it's so interesting too when people do the work, put in the work to figure that out. But it does take a while, because I don't think there's some of us who are born with it. Others,
it's just Maybelline.
It's Maybelline.
Yeah. So dopamine decorating is telling us to let go of expectations altogether and just purely focus on creating spaces that bring you joy and comfort rather than following these fleeting trends that are constantly changing. And it encourages to choose decor that resonates with our own tastes and preferences, and inherently will be more fulfilling and sustainable than chasing the latest and greatest. And by selecting pieces and colors that you genuinely love and that have personal significance in your home, will remain stylish and meaningful without the need for updates, and will evolve with you. So to your point about time, is it takes time, one, because of like there is some expense to updating your home or evolving your home. And it takes time to like figure it out too, before you've like lived it, depending on how long you've lived in your space. So, I want to wrap up with a couple of tips to consider if you're interested in embracing dopamine decorating. So we've kind of touched on these a little bit, but tip number 1, start small. Try a laundry room, a powder room, a mud room, and gradually layer it over time. It doesn't have to be in one weekend you overhaul this space. It's hard for me who like has a hard time living in the in between. But from personal experience, if you like give it a little bit of time and give yourself the opportunity to like see how the changes affect you and your home, you'll be much happier than trying to like rush through something. Tip number 2, find your starting point. So just pick a place to start. You don't have to mood board out the entire powder room with what you want to do. Pick a paint color that you love, or if it's new hardware, or a piece of furniture, a piece of art that you want to be the focal point, like let that be your starting point and help kind of guide the rest of your decisions. Again, making it less overwhelming if you're trying to like figure out every piece. Just pick one and start there and let it inform the rest of your decisions.
These are good tips.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I can actually do things.
Gonna go make a trip to the hardware store this weekend?
Well, not this weekend. I mean, I got a lot going on.
All right.
Maybe next weekend.
Okay, so my final one, which I think is really fun, is to use, there's a number of color resources out there because color can be scary. It feels like a commitment. A simple color wheel graphic can be such a helpful tool. So I'm going to take you through like art class a little bit. So there's a couple of approaches you can take to color to hopefully make it a little bit less scary. So the first one is try monochromatic or tone on tone. So you're going to choose, like if you love blue, you can outfit like your entire space with blue. Pick a couple of paint strips and just pick different tones, if that's or depths and saturations of that color. And so that's a great way if you don't want to do a rainbow of colors in your room, like a monochromatic look can be really fun and really impactful.
Yeah.
Analogous color palette. So those are colors that are side by side on the color wheel. So if you think of your Roy G. Biv like color wheel, I feel like I need a chart. But if you think of your Roy G. Biv color wheel, like picking two colors next to each other on the color wheel is a great way to maybe start thinking about introducing more color into your home. So like blue and green next to each other on the color wheel. And you don't have to do like classic rainbow blue, classic rainbow green. You can shades of those. You can go earthy, you can go more pastel, you can go bright, you can, there's a number of different directions you can go, but that's a good place to start if you want more than one color. Complementary. So colors that are across each other on the color wheel. So if you're looking at that wheel, like you draw a line, there are two colors across from each other. So think about like a rusty red and a green together. Again, if I told you red and green, you're like, oh, I don't need like Christmas colors. But if you explore different depths and saturations of those colors, you can find colors that will play really nicely together. And the last one is a triad color palette. So those are three colors that are evenly spaced on the color wheel. So you can pick your favorite color and then find two others that are evenly spaced. And you don't have to go with solids either. If you're thinking about introducing patterns or textures, like you've got, I keep using blue and green, but if you're doing like the rusty red and green, and you've got a green sofa that you love, but you want to refresh it a little bit, start exploring some of like those rusty red colors to kind of expand on your color palette a little bit. So I hope I've like encouraged a few people to explore this a little bit more and have hopefully made it a little bit more simple, but you can simply Google a color wheel and get an image, and that can be your starting point, and take that in with you to the hardware store when you're picking out paint or picking out curtains or rugs or fabric or whatever. Use that as a guide.
Yeah. Well, I think this goes back to what we were talking about just a little while ago about like the challenge of like defining your own style. If you haven't figured that out yet, like these tips that you have of just starting small, finding your starting point, using color resources, like it just makes it a lot easier. And something like the dopamine decorating trend, which you can do in a way, Becca, to your point, that feels personal to you, but also brings in some color and energy. Like, I don't know. I think it's totally achievable and doable versus like seeing a beautiful before and after and just not knowing how they even got there.
Yeah. Give yourself some time, use some resources, start small.
It can be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, any final thoughts, words on dopamine decorating?
I like it. It seems it's just more personal, I feel like, which I love.
Yeah, I love trends. I love following trends. I often feel like compelled to follow them, but it is, I don't know, maybe a hobby of mine. But I love the theory behind dopamine decorating, that it's not going to be, it's going to stick around forever. It's not another fleeting trend that we're going to change our mind about.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like Barbiecore.
Yes. Yes.
Timeless. Okay. Well, thank you, Hilary. I think you crushed it. And of course, thanks to Becca, our producers, Scott and Ann. Thanks to you for listening. Remember to leave us a rating, give us a like, subscribe to I Am Home wherever you listen, and then check out nfm.com where you can shop 24/7 for everything home design, furniture, and so much more. Until next time, remember, home is what you make it.
Thanks for joining us today for I Am Home with Tyler Weisskopf, Hilary Waltemath, and Becca Sudbeck. No one knows home quite like NFM. So if you'd like more information on home design at NFM, please check out nfm.com and leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice.